the transformation is complete.
Do you think women understand what it's like to be a man?
Not at all. No clue. No idea.
Norah Vincent is somewhat of a radical feminist, but I think she's different from the typical libertarians we see nowadays. I think she's logical, I think she's actually intelligent and is willing to hear both sides of the story. She's an author and she made herself a human experiment. She lived a life in the shoes of a man for 2 years. She referred to herself as Nat and, dressed like a man, altered her facial features to look like a man, and she lived life as a man to prove how easy it is to learn how it's like to feel the male privilege. I'm not here to encourage the victimhood mentality that, oh, we are so lonely, men have it so rough, and we'll be exactly like the radical leftists if we start sounding like that. After 2 years of living in the shoes of a man, she took her own life because she learned how different the world is for men and how treatment for men versus women is completely different. And I think we all know that. This is kind of old news, but I want to talk about it because it makes me sad. Also, this lighting is kind of romantic. I hope you don't mind it. I recorded another video like this, very romantic lighting, because it's getting late and my camera don't work at night. So I just got my phone on torchlight mode on my left. Smart, right? We're poor, but we gotta do what we gotta do. And this camera is $20 on Amazon, so naturally it's gonna be ass. Both men and women have it rough. But I'm a man, so I'm gonna share my side because I think typically nowadays women are more encouraged to speak out about their lack of privilege, the oppression and the poor treatment towards women. Sure, all power to you, but I also think that it's been pushed to a point where it's absolutely absurd. It's very, very difficult for women to remain feminine in such a cruel and terribly mean world. Men are, for some reason, less vocal about their negative emotions than women. So, being the less vocal group, our problems are less validated, less verified, and there's little acknowledgement from women of how difficult life can be for men. A little empathy goes a long way. A little encouragement goes a long way. I think the suicide epidemic in teenagers is largely men. A lot of it's attributed to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. A lot of men are very, very lonely. Nowadays, you're lucky to even have a close friend, and I think if you make the right choices, you will definitely not be lonely. But a lot of people make uneducated choices, and it's much harder to build relationships now in a technologically revolutionized world. You know this. As a man, how often do we get praise? How many of us have somebody that we can always turn to? Not many. Norah Vincent, she would go and meet people. She would go on dates. She would talk to random people and compare how they treat her when she's a man versus when she appears as a woman. And if you watch the documentary, you can see the incontestable difference in treatment because it is very often sold. Men are the perpetrators and women are always the victims. Think about this. Why does society shame incels and simps instead of seeing them as victims of loneliness and heartbreak? This is because society doesn't see men as victims, and I also don't think they should. I think the treatment is very unfair. I don't think either side of the coin, men or women, should be given the liberty to always be seen as the victim. But society doesn't see men as victims. Whatever situation men get themselves in is seen and noted as them doing it on purpose. That's why if a guy doesn't make himself to be anything remarkable, he's a loser. If he can't get a girl, he can't get a job, or he's out of shape, it's only because he's a loser. They don't consider that he's perhaps depressed. They don't consider whether he's been educated on the need to build yourself up. If you ask a girl what you think about a man who has failed in so many aspects of life, they have no empathy for them. They perfectly and only consider the fact that he chose to be that way. He wanted to be the perpetrator. He wanted to be the monster who's an asshole to women. He wanted to be the loser who's nothing. He doesn't do anything for himself. They don't consider he's depressed. They don't consider he's lonely, he's angry, he's been heartbroken multiple times. They don't consider any of that. They get no empathy. Once you fall off, you get zero empathy. It's noted that losers choose to be losers, that they wanted that. I'm grateful that Norah Vincent is honest with her experiences. She isn't just one of those radical feminists who would refuse to argue. They deny everything you have to say and then simply push their ideas forward. They don't argue with logics or facts or anecdotal and all emotionally driven. She invested herself and dedicated herself to becoming a human test subject. She sacrificed herself to learn, to understand and to appreciate. And honest people who seek out the truth are absolute diamonds. They should be held to the utmost respect. Unfortunately, Norah has taken her own life. And please don't in any way think, she couldn't handle the difficulty of a man's life. Men have it that much tougher than women. She has to take her own life because she couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle how tough it is to be a man. Men and women are different, and biologically speaking, they're wired to deal with things in different ways. I'm sure we have biological inklings to deal with problems that are specific to different genders. Maybe if any of us had to live a life of a girl for 2 years, we might also take our own lives. It might also be very mentally taxing because, for example, can our pride handle being treated like we are biologically weaker? Maybe you have more social privileges. I'm not saying it's easy or difficult either way. I'm not going to put a judgment on it right now, at least. But can our masculine pride, handle the life of a woman where she is always receiving things? People are always offering women help, and not many people offer men help because sometimes we're afraid to hurt their pride. You know what I'm saying? Of course, this is not entirely, this is just an example, okay? This is not like you know what I'm saying? Men have an ego. Sometimes when you offer men help, he'll think you're looking down on him. It is more typically practiced where you offer a woman help and she's grateful for it. Sometimes men will feel like you are belittling his competence. These kind of differences. Can we handle that? Kind of a shallow example, I understand, but you know what I mean. Shut your trap. After saying all that, completely agree. It can be very, very difficult to be a man. You cannot argue over how lonely it is to be an average man. It is crazy lonely in the most polite and respectful way possible. 99% of women will never be able to even comprehend or empathize with how lonely it is to be a man. Norah says it herself. Women don't have a clue. And we don't have a clue what it's like for them either. Women and children are protected by practice and culture. A woman can walk into a club and get attention. A woman can public her Instagram account and get attention. They don't have to suffer that immense loneliness we do. A man can do both those things and get absolutely nothing. For years, life as an average man is no easy task. Men and women have to work together. Our biological differences complement one another. We have to have empathy for each other. We don't pride ourselves of our hatred towards women who have made terrible choices. We don't shame their promiscuity, but I do believe that we all can benefit from making educated choices. That being said, you don't have to be someone who imposes your ideas into everyone he meets. Just be honest. You don't have to be overly vocal about ideas you have when you are asked for your preferences or when you are asked for what you think about a subject. You should tell the truth, at least what is true to you, and then we learn from that. And we should have empathy for women, and women should have empathy for us, and then we can live in a united, harmonious world where there's even more genuine relationships to be made. When we stop holding this perpetual idea that we are the victims, our gender is the victim, or their gender has a shit ton of monsters. We are perfectly aware that there's a shit ton of monstrous men and there are also a shit ton of monstrous women, but who cares? There's no toxic masculinity, alright? It's either terrible person or decent person or good person. We don't have to come up with labels to shame each other. We need to let go of our hatred and then make good decisions. Make choices around social confrontation that isn't driven by anger and resentment, but love and excitement that maybe this person will be a great candidate to be somebody we can share a great relationship with all this radical feminists and all this red pill masculinity, there's a huge divide in men and women, and it feels like a war. Pointless argument actually. We need to hurry up and get over this, and let's go all find the relationships we deserve. We gotta all become sexy, competent, intelligent, well-spoken young men, alright? Fueled by empathy, love and gratitude. Oh shit, that's the man right there. That's a true warrior. Have you seen Vinland Saga? That's Homodaga, the Senshida. Yeah, that shit's crazy. Alright, 2 battle.